The vast emptiness of space near Jupiter's orbit shattered as reality itself seemed to tear open. A massive crystalline vessel, nearly the size of Earth's moon, emerged from the swirling vortex of hyperspace. Its translucent hull caught Jupiter's reflected sunlight, creating a dazzling display of colors that would have stunned any casual observer. Deep within the hidden Earth Defense Force Station Europa 7, buried beneath the icy surface of Jupiter's moon, Admiral Taiwan Park maintained his composure as he watched the scene unfold on the holographic display. His weathered face, marked by decades of service, showed no sign of the tension that filled the command center. Another contact just emerged from hyperspace, sir, called out one of the sensor operators. 3 more following. No, 5. They're forming a defensive screen around the primary vessel. The Admiral nodded slowly, his hands clasped behind his back. Humanity had prepared for this moment for 50 years. The alien ships moved with precision, exactly as their intelligence suggested they would. The Federation's arrogance would be their undoing. Lieutenant Hannah Kim's fingers moved gracefully across the quantum interface, her movements precise and practiced. The holographic displays responded instantly, showing multiple angles of the incoming fleet. Energy readings are consistent with faction-class warships, sir, just as the simulations predicted. Multiple scanning beams detected, another operator announced. They're doing a full spectrum analysis of the system. Admiral Park allowed himself a small smile. The aliens would find exactly what humanity wanted them to find. A solar system that appeared to be home to a species just beginning to venture beyond their planet. The carefully crafted deception had taken decades to perfect. The Alien Federation's flagship, its crystal hull now fully materialized, dwarfed its escort vessels. According to their intelligence, it carried representatives from all 17 species that made up the Federation. They had come expecting to find a primitive civilization, one they could easily dominate or destroy if necessary. Their scans would be detecting the carefully placed energy signatures that shouldn't exist according to their outdated intelligence reports. Sir, they're broadcasting, Lieutenant Kim reported, her voice steady despite the historical significance of the moment. Multiple formats, using standard electromagnetic and quantum channels. They're trying to appear non-threatening. Let them transmit for another 30 seconds, Park ordered. Follow Protocol 7. The command center crew worked with quiet efficiency, monitoring every aspect of the alien fleet's position and activities. Years of drills and preparation had prepared them for this exact scenario. Human technology, hidden beneath layers of carefully crafted camouflage, tracked every movement of the alien vessels. Signal analysis complete, Lieutenant Kim announced. Translation matrices are ready. They're using standard Federation protocols, exactly as our deep space intelligence indicated. Admiral Park straightened his uniform, though it was already immaculate. Very well. Prepare to acknowledge their transmission. Activate the quantum entanglement network. I want every defense station in the system linked for this moment. Screens throughout the command center lit up with status reports from hidden installations across the solar system. Beneath the surfaces of Mars, Venus, and various moons, humanity's true technological capabilities waited. Weapons platforms that could reduce planets to ash, shields that could withstand the power of a supernova, and technologies that the Federation believed impossible for humans to possess, all remained concealed, waiting for the proper moment. They're repeating their transmission, sir, Lieutenant Kim reported. Their language analysis suggests they're using simplified forms, assuming we might be primitive. Admiral Park nodded. Now we show them their first surprise. Open a channel, full spectrum, using their own protocols. The lieutenant's fingers danced across her interface one final time. Channel open. Sir. Admiral Park's voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of 50 years of preparation. This is Admiral Park of the Earth Defense Force. We've been expecting you. The silence that followed lasted several seconds longer than any normal communication delay would explain. When the alien response finally came, their transmission carried obvious signs of confusion and surprise. In the command center, several officers smiled. It was just the beginning. The Federation would soon learn that humanity was not the primitive species they had expected to find. The real question was how many more surprises they would need before they understood exactly what they had stumbled into. Lieutenant Kim's console suddenly lit up with new data. "Sir, their fleet is adjusting formation. I think we scared them." "Good," Admiral Park replied, his voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. "That's exactly what we wanted. Now let's see how they handle their first real shock of the day." He turned to his communications officer. "Prepare to transmit Package 2. Let's show them just how long we've been watching them watch us." The first move in humanity's carefully planned game had been made. The Federation had expected to find prey, but instead they had walked into the lair of a predator that had been preparing for them for half a century. The real question was, how long would it take them to realize just how badly they had underestimated Earth? The aging computer screen flickered in the dimly lit laboratory as Dr. Jaiho Kang stared at the patterns dancing across it. Her eyes burned from hours of analyzing data, but she couldn't look away. The signal patterns were unlike anything she had ever seen before. Too precise, too structured to be natural, yet not matching any known human transmission formats. It was 1975, and as a junior researcher at the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, she had been tasked with analyzing deep space radio signals. What she found that night would change the course of human history forever. "This can't be right," she whispered, running the analysis program for the 12th time. The results remained the same. The signals were coming from multiple points in the solar system, following precise mathematical patterns that suggested artificial origin. More disturbing still, they were focused on Earth. Within hours, she had contacted her supervisor. Within days, she found herself in a secure military facility, explaining her findings to grim-faced generals and government officials. A week later, she stood before the United Nations Security Council in New York, her hands trembling slightly as she presented the evidence. "These signals," she explained, pointing to the complex patterns projected on the screen behind her, "are not random. They're coordinated observation posts, watching Earth from multiple angles. We are being studied." The council chamber erupted in heated discussions. Representatives from various nations argued about how to respond, what to tell their people, whether to prepare for war. Dr. Kang waited patiently until the noise died down. "We can't let them know we've detected them," she argued, her voice stronger now with conviction. "We must prepare in absolute secrecy. If they realize we know about their presence, we lose our only advantage, the element of surprise." The debate raged for days, but in the end, the world's governments agreed. Operation Silent Shield was born, a global initiative hidden from the public eye. Research facilities were built underground, funding channeled through thousands of fake projects, and the brightest minds on Earth were secretly recruited. 2 years later, fate handed humanity another advantage. A scout ship, part of the alien observation network, crashed in the Gobi Desert. Chinese authorities recovered it before anyone could notice, and within months, a secret international research facility was established nearby. Research Director Min Soo Lee, a brilliant physicist who had worked on South Korea's nuclear program, was chosen to lead the reverse engineering efforts. The crashed ship, though severely damaged, contained technological wonders beyond human understanding at the time. "Every piece of this craft tells us something new," Lee explained during one of the weekly briefings to world leaders. "Their quantum computing systems alone are centuries ahead of our current technology. But we're learning, we're adapting, and most importantly, we're improving upon their designs." Teams of scientists worked around the clock, breaking down alien systems and rebuilding them. They discovered principles of dark matter manipulation that revolutionized energy production. Gravity control systems were reversed engineered, leading to new forms of propulsion. Quantum computing advanced from theory to reality in secret facilities across the globe. The world above continued as normal, unaware of the massive technological revolution happening beneath their feet. Public technology advanced at a careful pace, just enough to seem natural, but never revealing humanity's true capabilities. The deception must be perfect, Lee insisted during a critical meeting with project leaders. Let them think we're still struggling with basic spaceflight while we build our real fleet in secret. Hidden shipyards were constructed in asteroid belts. Military bases were built beneath the surfaces of Mars and Venus. The dark side of the moon became home to humanity's largest manufacturing center, all while appearing completely barren to alien observers. Dr. Kang, now significantly older but no less determined, continued to monitor alien communications. "They're watching our public space programs," she reported. "They're seeing exactly what we want them to see, a species taking its first stumbling steps into space." The alien observers recorded human rockets that seemed primitive by their standards, unaware that these were merely props in an elaborate charade. They watched humans celebrate small achievements in space exploration, never suspecting that far more advanced human ships were already traveling through the outer solar system using their own technology. As decades passed, humanity's hidden arsenal grew. The world's militaries trained in secret for space combat, using simulators based on alien technology. Scientists developed weapons that could destroy entire fleets, shields that could withstand the most powerful known weapons, and stealth systems that made ships virtually undetectable. "We've learned more than they could imagine," Lee told the UN Security Council on the 40th anniversary of the program. "But more importantly, we've improved upon their technology in ways they haven't conceived. When they finally come, they'll expect to find primitive humans. Instead, they'll find an opponent capable of not just matching their power, but exceeding it." Dr. Kang, now in her later years, stood at a window in the lunar base, watching Earth rotate slowly in the black sky. The same aliens who had once observed humanity as primitive subjects for study would soon learn just how badly they had underestimated their potential victims. "We're ready," she whispered to herself, knowing that somewhere out there, the Alien Federation was preparing to make their first official contact. "We're more than ready." The massive view screen dominated the front wall of the Strategic Command Center, its crystal-clear display showing the Federation ambassador in terrifying detail. Commander Su-Jin Choi stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the alien's mandibles click and twitch as it delivered its message. The creature towered over its own podium, its armored exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights of its ship's transmission chamber. "The terms are non-negotiable," the arthropodal being continued, its translator converting its clicking speech into flat, emotionless English. "Earth will surrender its sovereignty to the Federation. All resources, including your water, minerals, and biological materials, will be managed under Federation authority." Around the command center, military officers and civilian leaders watched in silence. The room, carved deep beneath Mount Pektu, had been designed for exactly this moment. Reinforced walls capable of withstanding nuclear strikes surrounded them, while quantum-encrypted communications linked them to every hidden military installation across the solar system. Furthermore, the alien ambassador continued, its secondary arms gesturing at unseen displays. "Your species will be relocated as needed to optimize resource extraction. The Federation has determined that Earth's current population exceeds sustainable levels for efficient operations." Commander Choi felt her jaw tighten. The arrogance of these beings was exactly as their intelligence had predicted. 50 years of watching them had revealed their standard procedure: arrive with overwhelming force, make impossible demands, then crush any resistance to make an example for other worlds. President Yoon-hee Baek sat at the central command table, her face a mask of calm. She had trained for this moment since taking office, running through countless simulations of this exact scenario. Around her, military advisors waited for her signal, their hands hovering over control panels that could activate weapon systems throughout the solar system. "Your primitive nuclear weapons have been detected and neutralized," the ambassador declared, mandibles spreading in what their xenologists had identified as a gesture of contempt. Your orbital satellites have been disabled. You have no means of resistance. General Jun-Ho Shin leaned closer to the president's ear. Ma'am, the Federation fleet is moving into attack formation. Their weapons are powered but not yet targeted. The president nodded slightly. On hidden screens around the room, data streamed in from Earth's true defense network, systems the Federation had no idea existed. Their ships were being tracked by targeting systems more advanced than anything they possessed, while stealth platforms recorded their every move. Should we activate the Aegis Protocol? General Shin asked quietly. The Aegis Protocol had been designed as humanity's response to exactly this situation, a full reveal of Earth's true military capabilities in a way that would leave no doubt about their technological superiority. Commander Choi watched as more data flowed across her personal display. The Federation's fleet had brought exactly the number of ships their intelligence had predicted, enough to overwhelm a primitive civilization, but barely a fraction of what would be needed against Earth's hidden forces. The Federation grants you one standard planetary rotation to submit your formal surrender, the ambassador concluded. After that time, we will begin enforcement actions. Your resistance will be noted in historical records as yet another failed attempt to defy the inevitable progress of Federation expansion. President Baek finally stirred, straightening in her chair. Activate the Aegis Protocol, she ordered, her voice clear and firm. It's time to show them who they're really dealing with. General Shin touched his control panel, entering a complex series of commands. Throughout the solar system, hidden installations began powering up. Weapon platforms emerged from their camouflaged positions on Mars and Venus. Stealth ships decloaked, surrounding the Federation fleet in an invisible web of superior firepower. Send our response, President Baek commanded. Let's show them what 50 years of preparation looks like. Commander Choi allowed herself a small smile as she entered the transmission codes. The Federation had come expecting to find helpless prey. Instead, they had walked into humanity's carefully laid trap. Their own arrogance had blinded them to the truth. Earth was not the primitive world they thought they were conquering. The real war was about to begin, and humanity had no intention of playing the role of victim. The countdown they had prepared for decades had reached zero, and the Federation was about to learn a harsh lesson about underestimating their supposed inferiors. As the command center hummed with activity, President Baek watched the alien ambassador's image with steel in her eyes. Let's give them an education they'll never forget, she said quietly. It's time to rewrite the balance of power in this galaxy. Space around Mars shimmered as reality itself seemed to bend and twist. The Federation's Fleet Admiral, High Commander Kex, watched in stunned silence as massive structures began to appear where empty space had been moments before. His sensor officers frantically reported readings that shouldn't have been possible. High Commander detecting massive energy signatures emerging across the system. His second-in-command reported, mandibles clicking in agitation. They're everywhere. The Mars Defense Ring, humanity's crowning military achievement, revealed itself section by section. Massive weapon platforms, each larger than the Federation's biggest battleships, rose from the red planet's surface. Clouds of red dust billowed as hidden doors opened in the Martian crust, revealing installations that had been concealed for decades. Colonel Sung Min Choi stood in the control center of the Mars Defense Ring's primary hub, watching as his command came fully online. 50 years of preparation had led to this moment. All stations report status, he ordered, his voice steady despite the historical significance of the moment. All weapons platforms operational, his tactical officer reported. Shield systems at full power. Dimensional anchors holding steady. Deep beneath Europa's icy surface, Admiral Park stood in the hidden command center that had served as humanity's military headquarters for decades. Holographic displays showed the Federation fleet's positions, their ships now looking small and vulnerable compared to Earth's revealed forces. All units, execute Operation Revelation, Park commanded, his voice carried by quantum communications to every human ship and installation in the solar system. Show them everything. Space rippled again, this time all around the Federation fleet. Thousands of advanced human warships materialized from their dimensional hiding places, each one a testament to humanity's technological achievement. The ships were sleek, their hulls made of materials that absorbed all scanning attempts. Weapons ports dotted their surfaces, housing technology that the Federation had thought impossible for any species to develop. High Commander Kex stumbled back from his command console. "Impossible," he whispered, his translator struggling to convey his shock. "These readings, they've surpassed our most advanced systems." The human ships moved with perfect coordination, forming an elaborate three-dimensional web around the Federation fleet. Each vessel carried weapons that could reduce a Federation capital ship to atoms in seconds. Their shields operated on principles that Federation scientists had deemed theoretically impossible. "Sir," one of Kex's officers called out, "we're detecting quantum entanglement signatures from their ships. They're using instantaneous communication." In the Mars defense ring, Colonel Choi watched as the Federation ships attempted to adjust their formation. Their movements seemed clumsy now, primitive compared to the precise maneuvers of Earth's forces. "Target their flagship," Choi ordered. Minimal power demonstration. A single beam of energy, barely a fraction of the weapon's true capability, lanced out from the nearest platform. It passed through the Federation flagship shields as if they didn't exist, leaving a small, precise hole in one of the ship's non-critical sections. Admiral Park's voice came through on all channels, broadcasting to both human forces and the Federation fleet. "That was 1% power from one weapon on one platform. We have thousands of platforms, each with dozens of weapons. Would you like to see what full power looks like?" The Federation ships froze in place, their commanders suddenly realizing the true extent of their miscalculation. What they had thought would be a simple conquest had turned into a nightmare. They were surrounded, outgunned, and facing technology that made their most advanced systems look primitive in comparison. "Your observers watched us for decades," Park continued, his voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. "They watched our public space program, our civilian technology. They never thought to look deeper. Never imagined we could detect them, much less surpass them." More installations continued to reveal themselves throughout the solar system. Weapon platforms emerged from Venus's thick clouds. Defense stations appeared in the asteroid belt. A massive shipyard materialized in orbit around Jupiter, filled with vessels that made the Federation's finest ships look like children's toys. High Commander Kex could only watch as humanity's true power was revealed. His mighty fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, now looked like a collection of primitive vessels caught in a web of vastly superior technology. "The Federation's reign of conquest ends today," Admiral Park declared. "You came to subjugate us. Instead, you've walked into a trap 50 years in the making. The question now is, how would you like to proceed?" The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of warning alarms on Federation ships as more human weapons locked onto their vital systems. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a matter of minutes, and the Federation was only beginning to understand just how completely they had been outmaneuvered. The Great Hall of the Federation Council fell into stunned silence as the holographic displays activated. The massive chamber, designed to showcase the Federation's power and majesty, now displayed evidence of its greatest failure. Admiral Taiwan Park stood in the center of the room, his Earth Defense Force uniform stark against the ornate alien architecture. Around him, representatives from 17 alien species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The curved walls of the chamber, normally decorated with scenes of Federation victories, now showed detailed schematics of their most secret military bases. Every defense grid, every hidden weapon, every classified project, all laid bare. "This," Admiral Park said, his voice carrying clearly through the translator field, "is your primary fleet staging area in the Centaurus Arm." The hologram zoomed in on a massive space station. "You built it using slave labor from 3 conquered worlds. It has exactly 17 layers of security, and we compromised all of them 2 years ago." A murmur of disbelief rippled through the assembled council members. The Federation's High Chancellor, a towering crystalline being, leaned forward. Impossible. Those systems are isolated. There is no way. Commander Choi, Park interrupted. Show them the Proxima facility. Commander Soo-Jin Choi, standing at a control panel to the side, touched several controls. The display shifted to show another military installation, this one buried inside an asteroid. As they watched, security cameras from inside the base showed Federation personnel going about their duties, completely unaware they were being observed. We could have destroyed your key worlds at any time in the past decade, Park declared, his tone matter-of-fact. Instead, we chose to wait and observe. We watched you subjugate peaceful species. We watched you strip worlds of resources. We watched you build an empire on suffering and fear. The holographic display shifted again, showing hundreds of Federation worlds simultaneously. On each one, hidden human sensors and stealth platforms monitored everything. Some council members recognized locations they had thought completely secure, private meeting places, now revealed as compromised. Your encryption, Commander Choi said, activating another display. We broke it 8 years ago. Your secure quantum networks. We've been reading them for 5 years. Your deep space early warning system. We control 60% of it. One of the council members, a reptilian being, surged to his feet. This is a deception. No species could achieve such. Species TX-2991. Park cut in. That's your designation for the civilization you conquered in the Orion sector last year. You thought their resistance collapsed because of your superior tactics. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. We helped them fake their surrender. They're still fighting, using weapons we provided. Your occupation forces don't control half the territory you think they do. The revelations continued, each more devastating than the last. Human infiltration had reached every level of Federation society. Their agents had penetrated the highest levels of government, military, and industry. The Federation's most closely guarded secrets had been known to Earth for years. Your choice, Park continued, is simple. You can continue as you are, pretending to be the dominant force in this sector of the galaxy. If you do, we will begin dismantling your empire piece by piece. Or, he let the word hang in the air. The council chamber, usually filled with the sounds of environmental systems supporting 17 different species, had grown completely silent. Or you can accept our terms for a new order, one based on cooperation rather than conquest, one where all species have the right to develop without fear of being enslaved or destroyed. Commander Choi activated one final display, showing the full extent of human military forces spread throughout Federation space. The number of ships, bases, and weapons platforms was staggering. Each one incorporated technology far beyond current Federation capabilities. You have one standard day to decide, Park concluded. Choose carefully. Humanity's patience has limits, and you've been testing them for 50 years. The High Chancellor's crystalline form vibrated with barely contained emotion. And if we refuse? Admiral Park's expression remained neutral, but his eyes hardened. Then we demonstrate why it was a mistake to ever consider Earth a target for conquest. We've prepared for this moment for half a century. We've studied every weakness in your empire, every flaw in your defenses, every secret you thought was safe. The only question is whether you're wise enough to accept reality, or if you need a more practical demonstration of humanity's resolve. As the council chamber erupted into panicked discussions, Park and Choi stood quietly, watching the Federation's leadership come to terms with their new reality. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted, and humanity held all the cards. The only question now was how much the Federation would lose before accepting the inevitable. The red Martian sunset painted the massive observation deck in warm hues as ships of various designs moved gracefully through the sky. Some were sleek and crystalline, others organic-looking with living hulls, and still others were made of materials that seemed to bend light itself. All of them represented different species, different civilizations, now united under humanity's guidance. Admiral Taiwan Park watched a particularly large vessel dock at the spaceport below. Its design was distinctly Federation, but the modifications showed human influence, a perfect symbol of the changes that had swept through the galaxy in the past year. Ambassador Jinmu Park stood beside him, hands clasped behind his back as he observed the bustling activity below. The massive Mars Command Center, stretching for kilometers across the planet's surface, had become the new center of galactic diplomacy. Where once there had been only red dust and rocks, now stood the heart of a new interstellar civilization. The Centaurians are arriving tomorrow, the ambassador mentioned, nodding toward an approaching ship with distinctive blue-green markings. They're bringing their full council. They want to discuss expanding the protection agreement to their outer colonies. Admiral Park nodded. The Centaurians had been among the first to seek alliance with Earth after the Federation's restructuring. Their world had suffered under Federation rule, but now they were flourishing. Remember when we thought we were alone in the universe? The ambassador asked, a slight smile playing on his lips. Now we're hosting diplomatic meetings for 37 species. Below them, the spaceport hummed with activity. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved through the terminals, some floating, others walking on multiple legs, and some moving in ways that defied easy description. Human personnel worked alongside them, no longer hiding their true technological capabilities. The Federation delegates have submitted their final reform proposal, Admiral Park said, pulling up a holographic display with a gesture. They've agreed to all our terms, including full autonomy for the formerly subjugated worlds. The changes had been dramatic. The Federation, once a force of conquest and domination, had been transformed. Its new leadership, carefully chosen with human guidance, had embraced a different path. Military outposts were converted to trading stations. Slave worlds were freed. Technology was shared rather than hoarded. The Arctians are requesting permission to establish a cultural center here on Mars, the ambassador continued. They say they want their young to understand Earth's history, how we managed to hide in plain sight for so long, preparing and building our strength in secret. Admiral Park allowed himself a small smile. The story of humanity's great deception had become something of a legend among the younger species. How Earth had detected alien observation, reverse-engineered crash technology, and built a hidden empire right under the Federation's nose. A group of floating crystalline beings drifted past the observation window, their internal lights pulsing in patterns that indicated excitement. They were students from a former Federation world, come to study at the new Galactic Science Academy. We did it, Ambassador Park said quietly, watching the scene below. We secured humanity's place among the stars. Admiral Park shook his head slightly. No, he corrected, we did more than that. We changed the galaxy itself. He was right. Earth had emerged not as another conquering power, but as something new. Protectors of the weak, defenders of freedom, teachers willing to share their knowledge. Species that had once cowered under Federation dominance now stood tall, knowing Earth would defend their rights. The massive display screen on the far wall showed status updates from across known space. Trade routes flourished where warships had once patrolled. Scientific cooperation replaced military standoffs. Former enemies worked together on massive engineering projects that benefited all. The Arcturian delegation sends their thanks, a young aide reported, approaching with a datapad. The new defense grid we helped them install has already deterred 3 pirate raids. This was humanity's new role, not ruling through fear like the old Federation, but leading through example and assistance. Earth's technology and military might remain unmatched, but they were used to protect rather than dominate. As the Martian night began to fall, more ships arrived, their lights creating a dance of colors against the darkening sky. Each represented a different species, a different culture, all now part of something greater than themselves. The galaxy is changing faster than we expected, Ambassador Park observed. Even the most optimistic projections didn't predict this level of cooperation. Admiral Park nodded. In the space of a single year, centuries of fear and domination had begun to fade. The galaxy was entering an unprecedented era of peace and cooperation, with Earth at its heart not as conquerors, but as guardians of a new age. As they watched, a massive ship emerged from hyperspace, one of the new joint species vessels, crewed by humans working alongside former Federation species. It represented everything they had fought for, not just survival, not just power, but the chance to build something truly great. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And humanity, the species that had hidden and prepared for so long, now stood ready to guide the galaxy toward a brighter future.